You don't need a crazy amount of Instagram followers to actually have a very profitable Instagram strategy.
Okay, so Sammy says, this may be something that's been talked about or is in one of the courses. I've been working on launching my Instagram this week, and I haven't had much luck getting followers, posting once a day, and I had the advice to try posting 3 times a day. What would you say is the best strategy for someone starting an Instagram from scratch with no following? This is a brand new business with no clients yet, and my personal Instagram has only converted 30 people to like my page. My Instagram is at the Love Department for reference.
All right.
Go ahead.
Loving this question, Sammy. Yes, you are right. We have covered this in detail inside of the Crush It with Instagram course in the membership. So definitely check that out as your step-by-step guide, how to grow an Instagram following from 0. One of the things that can shorten that time frame for you is, 2 things really important. You don't need a crazy amount of Instagram followers to actually have a very profitable Instagram strategy. So that's number 1. It's very much about the hustle mentality with Instagram. So you want to embrace that fully. And one of the things that I would do would be to think about partnering with other people who already have an established audience. So there's tons of ways that you could do this, whether you want to be a guest at, in someone else's Instagram, whether you want to host an Instagram takeover and take over their account for a day. This is something that's really fun and a lot of brands do, and they do it really well. If you can find and leverage the OPA methodology, which is other people's audiences, you'll be winning. So I would get exposure as much as I can. I wouldn't rely on the algorithm to help you get discovered. I would actually be very intentional and very aggressive about working with other people who have established audiences, whether it's Instagram stories takeover where you're providing value to that person's audience. Of course, you want to make sure that the audience is people that you want to follow you in return, your ideal client. But if you can hustle in that department, man, I've seen some people really crush it with this strategy. So doing that, I think, would be super smart. The other thing you can do is try going live. You could do a Facebook and Instagram live. You can also go in and just swap feeds. So you can have someone post on your Instagram and then in exchange you post on theirs. There's tons of things you can do that way. And then the second thing I think is really, really important and smart to think about. So this strategy is I believe it's called shoutouts. So Instagram shoutouts. It's not something I've personally used, but I've seen some of our clients and some of our students do it really well. So you can either pay a really nominal fee to a more established Instagram influencer. Maybe you can make a list of 10 accounts on Instagram, go down the rabbit hole, type in a couple keywords related to your niche in the search bar, look for hashtags, follow those hashtags, look at, posts, follow those posts, and then go in and follow people that you feel are usually, I would say, 10 to 20,000 who have 10 to 20,000 followers. And from there, you can ask for their rates if they would be willing to shout you out on their Instagram account. Of course, present a strategy that makes sense, meaning add value, and maybe have them post, what do you call these? I never know what to call these. Chris just called them a gallery, but I know they're called something else when you have multiple photos in the Instagram feed. But you could have the influencer post a picture with a caption about a content piece that you created over on your Instagram account. And then the next slide is a screenshot of that post, something like that. That's super, super, super effective. And you can usually pay anywhere from $20 to $100 per shout out, and you'll get quite a few followers. The average, and guys, don't quote me on this because again, we haven't tried this strategy for ourselves, but we've seen this work really well in this market. Usually you can expect anywhere from 200 to about 300 to 500 followers per shout out. It just depends on how legit that influencer is, how much influence they have, how much engagement they have. And then also, and this is something I talk about and go in deeper in the actual course, whether or not you're a good audience fit. So I would actually prep, if you're going to use this strategy, whether it's Instagram takeovers or actually doing the shoutouts, prep your feed. Make it really, really good. You want to make sure that you have at least 9 to 12 posts that are of super high value, that look very professional, that resonate with your ideal audience. Because if you're going to try these strategies, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look at your feed. And, more and more, we're using this as a way of like introducing ourselves to the world, Instagram. So make sure that you got your stuff on lockdown, show up as a professional, have something that they can use to validate you, whether it's just like a one-page website, something that gives you legitimacy and authority outside of Instagram is really important. Those are the kind of things that I look for when I'm collabing or saying yes or no to different brand collabs. So really key there. Yes, Sammy says they're called carousels. I think they are. I think you're right. I think they're called carousels. Thank you.
I drew a blank. Carousel's probably the best way to say it, but you knew what we were talking about.
Anyway, that's what I would do when you're starting from scratch. And then look for ways that you can really focus on building your community on Instagram. One of the things that I think people take for granted is engagement. If we're going to ask people to follow you, you got to start following people, engage with their photos, engage with your ideal audience's content if you expect that to be given to you in return, and be prepared for the long haul. Instagram is not a monster that you just explode on the scene with. And if you do, it's usually because you're doing some back channel things. So just know that. We've talked to so many Instagram experts and done so many consultations and kind of gotten under the hood of what other people are doing that's working. And it's just kind of all hustle work. And if it's not hustle work, it's definitely some interesting gray hat, maybe half black hat strategies that we don't really resonate with, like buying Instagram followers or using like crazy bots, or actually, a lot of people do shout outs with celebrity accounts, which makes no sense to me because we actually, Chris had a friend who did this.
Yeah, he got 40,000 people from Kyle Kuzma. He teaches people how to do high level sales. Kyle Kuzma plays in the NBA, for those who don't know. What do Kyle Kuzma's people have anything to do with learning how to do high ticket sales? So it's just it's vanity numbers. And he lost like 6,000 of them pretty quickly too after he did that. He paid $10,000 for that.
Yeah, he paid $10,000 for a single Instagram shout out. And the thing is, like, you could probably put 10 grand in ads and get a much higher return for that. Crazy. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it makes no sense. It's keeping up with the Joneses. That strategy is. It's just having numbers just for the sake of having numbers.
Yeah, it's having numbers to say, oh, I got 40,000 Instagrams followers.
Right.
That's just not the strategy we prescribe to. We're all about like, look, let's focus on why we're here, which is to, make an impact, share value, serve our community, and make a ton of money. And you just can't do that when you have random people following you who have absolutely no interest in what you're selling, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So grind it, work, hustle. Get it done. And you'll see, honestly, after the first 1,000 followers on Instagram, we definitely have noticed a tipping point where it's a lot easier to get followers. And I'm seeing we're almost to 10,000 on my account, which, is not our main channel. But I'm seeing that I have to post way less, and actually we're growing the account much faster. So, Sammy, I think one of your questions was about frequency. How often should you post? 3 times a day, I think, is super excessive for Instagram. You can try it, though.
Too much. That's way too much.
I've seen people who do this and they treat Instagram like Twitter, and it backfires because you're spreading the algorithm way too thin. Frequency is usually not the answer. It's usually quality. So I would try different formats. Right now, Reels are crazy hot. That's what the algorithm is pushing. Anytime there's a new feature, that's what they're going to be pushing. So I would ride the Reels wave and create Reels and see and experiment and play and kind of test out what works for you. Right now, honestly, I do stories almost every day, but on the actual feed, I post 3 times a week, sometimes 4, sometimes less, and it's working really well. I've noticed that the posts that perform the best, the posts that get us followers, are posts that people are saving, not posts that people are just liking or that they're commenting on. It's posts that people are sharing and people are saving. And that's a huge hack.
Yeah.
If you just focus on the likes, that's vanity. That's like so easy to do. There's no depth. So you want to create content that's shareable, that people are actually sending via DMs or they're sharing to their stories. That's how you grow on Instagram, or they're saving so that they can refer to it later.
Yep.
What would you say, Chris? Anything you would?
Yeah, I just think that what I would do, and this is advice not just specifically to Instagram, but just this was a hard thing for me because it's so easy. And I'm starting to call it this, and I'm not trying to be antagonistic in saying this, but I've been calling it Gary V syndrome, right? Like just creating content for the sake of creating content without really having a strategy around why you're doing it. Like, why do you want to grow your Instagram? Like what? Now I understand it's because that's where a lot of people are and maybe your target demographic is there, but also ask yourself, are you doing it because there's a societal pressure there of like, well, success equals Instagram growth? I don't know that that's the case. So what I've seen work really well are people that are focused on building their email list, developing customers, and then those people, you're nurturing those people once they've already discovered you, not necessarily using Instagram for a discoverability tool. I'm not saying go ditch your Instagram strategy, but I also think that you're going to be growing slowly. Just make sure that doesn't become your primary focus of what you're trying to do with your holistic marketing strategy. So I would much rather see you focused on, like I said, your email list, your lead magnets, blogs, YouTube, Pinterest, things are going to develop and grow over time. And then when people join your email list, encourage them to go follow you on social media for more content, more learnings, or whatever it is that you provide, more education or furthering the relationship with you. To me, I would understand these are discoverability tools, meaning search tools, and these are nurture tools. Now, I even go so far as to call my podcast a nurture tool because why? There's no search feature with the podcast. So for people that find me, join my email list, guess what? Every week you get new content from me so that by the time I am ready to sell something, guess what? I've given you so much free value and you've built a relationship with me through the podcast that it's more likely you're going to buy. However, it is far less likely that you're going to go onto your Apple Podcasts and just so happen to search and stumble upon my podcast. You're going to search for people like Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, people that you already are familiar, Pat Flynn, people you're already familiar with. You're not going to find my show. I'm not diminishing the size of my show. We've done extraordinarily well, but it's not a search tool, right? So we can try all these hashtag hacks and all these other things and collaborating with people. And these are all great things. But like Kim said, it is a hamster wheel. It is a hustle and grind play to do that. Whereas if you do something like, and I'm not always just advocating. I mean, I feel sometimes like YouTube should throw me some sponsorship money for how much I broadcast to them. But blogging, YouTube, Pinterest, those get better over time, right? Whereas an Instagram post might be good for 16 hours at most, right? So you just have to understand the game you're playing. I know people that do extraordinarily well with Instagram. I have a buddy of mine that has literally built an entire local business with Instagram because he's in a market where people just aren't using Instagram to the capacity that he's using it. So it's great. However, one of the things I would say is simultaneously, he's done the other things too. He's established his local citations. He's built up his local reviews. He has a YouTube channel that has 15,000 subscribers. So I don't know what is really the driving force behind it, but I do know that it's one of the touch points. So really take time to craft out what your marketing plan is going to look like. It should include Instagram, but don't make it the central focus just because that's what Gary Vee says to do, right? And that's not throwing shots at Gary Vee. I'm not throwing stones at Gary Vee. But sometimes I think his go create content to the world message, it's not really conducive to what we do of being profitable over being popular, which is what Kim always talks about. So let's really kind of snip. Somebody said, Tamika said, I wish likes and number followers didn't exist. I do too, because so many of us get caught up in that vanity hamster wheel. And I think it's so dangerous. And it's not what building an online business or any business for that matter truly looks like.